Hi, BookTube. It's Gina. Happy Wednesday. I forgot what day it was today. It's been one of those weeks. I'm just a little bit out of it. So since I missed Tag Tuesday, I did still want to do a tag, and I was not tagged, but I saw a fun tag on Kristen at Enter the Books channel recently. Kristen just reached 500 subscribers, and so she created an original tag about your book acquiring habits. And as you know, I love book shopping. To me, book shopping is as much of a hobby as book reading. I think book shopping is so much fun. I love puttering through bookstores. And so I thought that doing this tag would be a really fun way to talk to you a little bit about my book shopping habits. So we'll get started on the book acquiring tag. Question number 1 is, do you plan your book purchases ahead or impulse buy? And I generally impulse buy. I hit a lot of used bookstores, and because I'm shopping a lot of times for vintage books, I don't generally plan on what I'm looking for. I just go to the bookstore and I putter around and see what they have. However, I do have a list of the authors I'm looking for, because even though I know who I want, I don't know if you guys do this. When I walk into the bookstore, other than like 3 or 4 that I know I'm looking for, my mind goes blank and I forget. And if I don't specifically search via the last name, I know I'm missing something. So I do now keep a list of authors I want to search for when I'm doing a used book hunt. And that just helps me not forget to search for anything on my list. I got a cat here, excuse me. Prompt number 2, how do you decide what books to buy? And I pretty much will buy anything that's vintage and is in the collectible editions that I like. So Barbara Pym, D.E. Stevenson, Miss Reed, Rosamund Pilcher, Mary Stewart. I mean, the list goes on, which you can see why it's important that I have a list, because I'll forget who I want to look for if I don't have a list. And I don't decide on which of those to buy. I just search through my store and see what they have. I've got a great used bookstore about an hour away from me, and their stock is constantly rotating, and so I almost always find a really good pile of stuff there. Now, occasionally I will look for something online like this one that I just bought online. I wanted a Miss Reed signed copy, which I got. I also got the sticker attached to it, which was not disclosed. So this was one that I was sort of searching for specifically online, just as I wanted a signed edition of something fun, not necessarily this particular book. So I'm in my collecting phase right now, which is new for me in the last maybe year or so. Prompt number 3, what is your philosophy on where you shop? Online, in person, large, small, digital, physical, or audio, new or used? All of the above, except pretty much audio. I don't really do audiobooks anymore. I used to commute to work, and I loved listening to audiobooks when I was commuting. It was so much fun and so good. But now my routine, I work from home. When my workday ends, I like to pop on a cozy British show, have a drink, and make dinner. And I can't quite figure out how to work audiobooks into my routine. So I generally just don't do audiobooks, but everything else, I shop online, I shop in person. I do love the experience of going to a bookstore. I love having book dates, meeting people for coffee and book shopping. That's one of my favorite ways to spend time with my friends, and I do that as often as I can, especially now that I haven't been able to do it for a long time. I'm making up for lost time. I love to search for my vintage collectibles at the used bookstore. I love to buy new books, especially for authors that I want to support. So I have no qualms buying new books. As a matter of fact, I did a Barnes & Noble run recently on one of my book shopping dates and bought The Sentence because I wanted to read this. And so this is probably something I'm going to try to read in April coming up. And I do like to buy new books. I like to support my bookstores. I like to support the authors. So I do occasionally buy new books. However, I am finding when I start thinking about my budget, and I'm not super worried about budget, I think that's a question that's going to come up soon. I'm not as worried about limiting my book buying budget. I made a conscious decision a while ago that I can buy whatever book I want. I'm in a spot in my life where I'm working, I have some disposable income, and so if I want to buy a book, I'm pretty much going to buy it. However, what I'm finding with new books is that it's not as good a use of my book budget because I don't read as many new releases. I don't tend to keep them. These are usually the ones that get unhauled first when I'm trying to make some space. So I'm thinking I will probably cut back a little bit on some new book purchases. Maybe I'm doing some analysis now on my book spending. So I'm tracking what I buy, where I buy it, and how much I'm spending, just to see, for curiosity's sake, and for stuff like this, like, is my money going to a place where I feel like it's being valued? And so I do like to support authors, like to support bookstores, but I want to also consider that what I generally like to collect are these old vintage copies. So that's noodling away in my mind right now. I do read Kindle books. I love my Kindle, love reading on a Kindle. So I buy a lot of ebooks. I also check a lot of ebooks out at the library. My library has a wonderful, almost every ebook that I want, except for brand new, like, UK releases. They don't always have those, but they pretty much have everything, including a lot of the backlist books that I love. So I do read a lot on my Kindle from the library. I also buy a lot on my Kindle because sometimes I just want them on my Kindle library. New versus used, everything. So I love to buy books everywhere. Prompt number 4, what about little free libraries? What do you think about them? Have you used one? Why or why not? I have never stumbled across a little free library in the wild. I live in a rural area, and so there aren't any out here. If I drove to the city, I'm sure I could find some, but honestly, I just probably not something I would seek out. If I saw one, I would maybe swing by and just check it out, but just not something that is very prevalent in my area. I donate a lot of books. I sell books back to the bookstore if they're ones I think like the new releases a year later or 6 months later after I've read them. So little free libraries just are not something that I have come across. Prompt number 5, how do you feel after acquiring a book? Do you share, like, in a book haul or a diary? So yes, I love to record book hauls for you and for me. They're fun. It's fun to show you my books. It's fun to show you what I've bought. I love recording book hauls. I love watching book hauls. I just love seeing what people are buying. I think that they're so much fun. I do track my reads on Goodreads, and I don't generally do reviews on Goodreads, and I just use it for tracking what I've read. And I don't keep a book diary. I wish I was the kind of person that could chronicle my books and keep a book journal diary. I've started them numerous times. I write in them for a week and then I forget about them. So I've come to the realization about myself. I'm not a chronicler. I don't do it. Prompt number 6, how do you feel looking at your books that you haven't read? Does it matter if it's current if it's currently a lot or a little amount. So I don't care how many unread books I have on my shelf. I know some people want to get to a 0 TBR, which just does not appeal to me whatsoever. I love having a ton of books that I haven't read. I love knowing that if, let's say, a pandemic hits and you can't get to the library or the bookstore for a while, you have stuff to read. I love the look of my books on my shelf. I love knowing that I have always got something I can read. So I do not feel any anxiety about the books on my shelf that I have not read. They are a glorious possibility for joy in the future. Prompt number 7. How do you decide what number of unread books is the right amount? Every book I own could be unread, and I would be perfectly happy with that. So I don't have a number. Prompt number 8, do you have a TBR game or process for reading them? I do not. I don't generally do TBRs. I do start to think about my TBR in my head, and I do TBRs sorry, that was a little cat visit. Here, I will show you. This is our girl Josie. She is 13. She just had her 13th birthday. She's our old lady, kind of like me. And that was Josie. So where was I? TBR game. The only time I really do a TBR is when there's a fun event that is coming, like middle grade March and March Mystery Madness. I did a TBR for that, and I've been reading for those, and I love it. Jane Austen July, I'll probably do a TBR. Victober, I'll probably do a TBR. I do generally have an idea of what I want to read in the upcoming month. I have a shelf where I've got stuff double stacked on its side of stuff I've recently bought that I know I want to sort of get to. Like this, I want to read before the prize is announced. I bought some fun romances that were marketed as from Rosamund Pilcher's bookshelf. And so I think I want to read one of these in April. I also have a buddy read in April, so I know there's one buddy read book that I'm going to be reading. So I generally have an idea, but I'm not much of a TBR person. I don't have a game. I don't have any TBR game, which I love. They're fun. I love to watch them, but because I don't have a desire to get through my unread books, I don't do anything to help me pick them. Prompt number 9, do you have a book buying problem? If so, what is the nature of it, and can it be adjusted? And I don't. Like I said, I have a budget for it. I don't spend too much. I like to support my bookstore, my authors, my used bookstores. And so I don't feel like I have a book buying problem. I think the only reason you should have a book buying problem is if you have piles that you don't feel comfortable with. And so sometimes I do have to weed things out. If you're going into debt to buy your books, which is not safe or healthy for your budget. But otherwise, if you want a book and you can afford it and you have the space for it, buy it. I say buy it. Buy all the books. And prompt 10 is tag 2 or 3 others to ponder their book buying process. And number 11 is know that you are awesome just as you are. Being a book lover is amazing, and I agree with that. So I'm going to tag my friend Kevy at Say Kevy. I'm going to tag Kevy because I think she buys a lot of ebooks. And I'm really curious to hear her answers to these questions. And then I'm going to tag 2 brand new booktubers, Wendy at Book It. Hi, Wendy. And Jillian at Novel Ideas. Hi, Jillian. I'm not sure if I spelled your name right, so let me know if I got it wrong. They're 2 brand new booktubers who I'm really enjoying. I hope they stick with it because their channels are both really good. And so I hope that you will do this tag. I think tomorrow I'm actually going to talk to you about my book collecting because Shelley Swearingen did a a talk about book collecting. She didn't officially make it a tag, but I think it's gonna segue really well from this to that. So I'll be back tomorrow to talk about my book collecting habits. Bye.